Hello.
Hi there.
How are you?
I'm fine, thanks.
This is Paul Bale,
This is John Leister.
and you're watching the Canadian Bro Show. Thank you
Most
so much.
things Canadian with Pauly and Johnny.
How's it going, eh? So today we're going to talk about sci-fi movies.
We're going to talk about, because Johnny and I, the last episode we did, episode 9 or 8, we've lost track. Episode 9, I believe.
You can't count that high.
Well,
I can't.
We're getting there. We did, Johnny and I love film. We're film buffs. And we did a really fun sort of 40 minutes on zombie genre. This time we'd like to talk about one of our favorite genres, both of us, and that is science fiction.
Right.
And Johnny, would you like to start off with
your
your
we'll start
favorite?
off. Now, this is a science fiction movie, but it can also be seen as a horror movie. And I picked this one because the director is Canadian, David Cronenberg. 1986, The Fly. Jeff Goldblum and Gina Davis. Also, a very tragic love story. Jeff Goldblum is a scientist, a very nerdy scientist, but charismatic scientist. That was the beginning of him becoming super
charismatic,
buff.
nerdy scientist.
And he invents basically a transporter like Star Trek. And of course, it's based on the classic 1950s version with Vincent Price and David Hedison, who's in Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea. So Jeff Goldblum decides to experiment on this telepod with himself. And unfortunately, a fly gets in, like a garden variety housefly gets into the pod with him. And so when he gets out of the pod, it's not like the original movie where his head's the fly of a head and his arm's the arm of a fly. He almost becomes like a superhero. Yeah. Like he feels fantastic. And he's like gets into an arm wrestling match with this guy and he's kind of showing off to everyone. But little by little, he begins to transform into essentially a human fly. And it is very gory, very sad, very chilling, very darkly funny, and I think it's a great movie. So that's my choice, The Fly.
I'm a huge Cronenberg fan, and I'm surprised I haven't mentioned any of his movies until, well, actually, when we do a viral one, I was actually going to mention one of his old films, but I'll save that for a different time.
Yeah.
But I love Cronenberg, and that was a great film.
He did a great job on The Dead Zone, too.
Yeah, well, he's done a great job on a lot of different types of movies, even his old school ones. I'm going to go back old school because I have early memories of watching and falling in love with science fiction, film, television, anything really, because, we read all the time. We talk about it all the time. We're, prolific readers.
Very
voracious
insatiable
readers. Insatiable, yeah. And
we love the word.
And of course, we had our TV. We had our 4 channels, but that just wasn't enough. So movies were there, and at the end of the day, when somebody came out with something that was groundbreaking far before anybody else at that time, it really stands the test of time. And my first film is 2001: A Space Odyssey, 1968. One of the best science fiction films. I was going to put George Lucas's film, THX, in it, but this one's far superior. And I remember watching it going, I don't know what the hell's going on, but I love it.
Based on a book by Arthur C. Clarke.
Right. And a quick thing, an imposing black structure provides the connection between the past and the future in this enigmatic adaptation of a short story of the revered science fiction author R.C. Clarke, when Dr. Dave Bowman and other astronauts
played by Keir Dullea, Canadian actor.
Absolutely, Dullea, and were sent to a mysterious mission. Their ship's computer system, HAL, begins to display increasingly strange.
The first example of AI taking over in cinema.
There we go.
Anyway.
1968.
Yeah.
2024.
Very prophetic film.
Absolutely, and Stanley Kubrick. Groundbreaking film.
One of the great filmmakers of all time.
Really changed and was the #1 film in the world at that time. So I had to bring it up because I've watched it so many times.
The final half hour where Dave Bowman, the astronaut, he enters.
In case you haven't seen it.
Well, just saying visually, I feel that it still holds up. It's every bit as spectacular.
Like I said, it still stands
really
the test of time.
groundbreaking special effects.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, my next choice is also on my list, on your list, and it's on my list. I just noticed Planet of the Apes, 1968.
Okay, you have to stop looking at my cheat sheet.
Well, it's on my phone. I can show you if you like.
Pages. No, I don't look at his, but he cheats off mine.
I just happened to notice.
No,
when you're
you
holding it like
can't
this.
help yourself. You've done this multiple
Okay, do you want me to do another one?
No.
I can do another
Go
one.
ahead.
Okay, Planet of the Apes. Again, Charlton Heston, who we talked about in the previous podcast. Another astronaut who's fed up with humanity. He's fed up with the human race. He wants to explore the galaxy, and he winds up in a time warp with his fellow astronauts, and it's like 3,000 and something, and he winds up on a planet that is ruled by apes. Now, you would think that he'd be able to figure out right away that, spoiler warning, he's back on Earth, right? The apes are speaking English, and he looks up at the sky and looks at the stars. He should be able to figure out that he's back. And he finds it like a toy doll in the Forbidden Zone that's perhaps got Mattel written on it. But it's a story, and the ending of that movie was a really big surprise. I remember watching it on. I'm not going to give it away, but when I watched that movie with my mom and dad at the end, you know the scene where they're going through the desert town.
Yeah.
It was a real kick in the groin. They did 4 sequels, kind of lower budget sequels, but I enjoyed all of them.
And then a television series.
And a television series.
And another television series later.
And the sequels were very clever. Like in the second one, they introduced these mutants that had telepathic powers.
Yeah.
And then in the third one, they
brought
some of the apes to present day, 1970s.
Yeah.
And then the fourth one, they show like the origin of the Planet of the
For
Apes.
the late 60s, it was really ahead of its time.
And it's been remade many times since then, but I still feel that original is still the best of the bunch.
One of my favorite...
And Rod Serling wrote the screenplay.
And Roddy McDowell, it was the head...
Cornelius.
Cornelius.
Well, then later he played
Jim.
Caesar, Cornelius' son.
Correct.
Right.
Correct. Yeah, really fantastic. That's actually my number 2. So he just swiped that for me.
I'm sorry.
No, but it's classic. I love it.
Swiper, no swiping.
No, the thing is that Charlton Heston at the time was the number 1 American actor in the world. And he had done Omega Man, he had done Planet of the Apes, he will have done a few others. I won't mention any more names because it's on my list. So I'm going to skip, and he keeps on doing it. He just keeps on doing it.
That was off the top of my head.
No, you just can't help yourself. It's like attention deficit disorder.
Johnny is bad.
Johnny, it's like he probably had 3 beers before he came. It's probably why he's had 3
tonight.
3 beers equals 3 pee breaks. 1 beer, 1 pee. That's what it is.
I have a very small bladder.
Don't talk about anything else small. Okay, so I'm going to go to Soylent Green, as Johnny already called it, which was Charlton Heston's next blockbuster film, just a few years later in 1973. This is one of my favorite films of all time, and it was also the very last film of the famous character actor Edward G. Robinson.
Right.
He was in his late 70s at this time, and seeing him and Charlton Heston together is incredible. And I'll just give you a little blurb on, because a lot of people don't know this film. Built in 1973 in a densely overpopulated, starving New York City of the future that you don't want to be that.
He's really selling it.
New York police officer Robert Tom Charlton Heston investigates the murder of an executive at a rations manufacturer called Soylent Corporation. With the help of an elderly academic, Saul Roth, Edward G. Robinson, his last film. It's great. Thorne begins to make real progress, and until the governor mysteriously pulls a plug, obsessed with the mystery, and he's a cop, right? Thorne steps out behind the badge and launches his own investigation. A quick thing on this is done in, I think it's 2000, and the movie was done in 1973, but it says it's 2000.
One of the great shock endings of all time.
Yeah. And essentially, they're in Manhattan, in New York, and there's 57 million people living in Manhattan.
Densely populated.
You could say the least.
Understatement.
I mean, that's like double of Mexico City, just in Manhattan and the boroughs. Anyways, you can tell that's a problem. And essentially, everybody's starving. And Soylent Green is what the government has come up with to feed everyone Tuesdays, because they're starving, and only the people that have money can actually eat an apple.
What is the secret?
Or cream
of
cheese.
Green?
Well, this is the whole thing with the movie, and I'm not going to go there. I don't want Johnny to go there. But if you haven't seen this was an award-winning film. It was the #1 film at that time, and it blew people's minds, especially when they found out, because they didn't really find out. The director did a great job, and which is Richard Fleischer, who was very popular.
Prolific guy. He did the Three Musketeers.
And he did a bunch of the Paul Newman
movies.
But also with the big buildings on fire.
The Towering Inferno.
Yes.
Yeah, they're Ronaldo movies.
Yeah.
Disaster movies. That's
yes, exactly. Thank you. But that could be another thing. But anyways, just a phenomenal film and really quite sad. And I cried at the end.
Hopefully not too prophetic.
Well, God.
Right.
You could see that happening. But who do you got next?
Okay, I'm going to go. I think we'd mentioned this briefly on a previous podcast, but I'm going to go with 1979's Time After Time with Malcolm McDowell, who plays H.G. Wells. And in this movie, he actually builds a time machine, which is stolen by his friend, played by David Warner, who turns out to be none other than, dun, 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 Jack the Ripper.
Yeah.
And Jack the Ripper winds up in present day for the time of the movie, 1979, basically goes on a rampage, and Malcolm McDowell tries to stop him. It's a really warm and funny, and it has kind of some thriller aspects, obviously, but also a great love story with Malcolm McDowell and Mary Steenburgen, who eventually got married. But just a great fish out of water. I love fish out of water movies. I think everyone does. When you have a character who's in an environment that's completely alien, and to see someone from the 1800s or 1700s interacting in present day, it's very, very funny. And Malcolm McDowell is so charming in that movie.
Great. And he's in
directed by Nicholas Meyer. And who also wrote it?
I believe he's in one of my. He's actually in. I can't tell you, but yes.
Okay.
He's in.
So that's my next choice. Time After Time.
And a quick thing. And by the way, I love it.
Yeah.
It was a great film.
Charming film.
And I'm a big fan of Malcolm McDowell and Steenburgen. And by the way, they were lovers and they were married and they were together. And guess 50 years later, they're back as a couple.
Wow. Well, that's very uplifting.
Isn't that cool?
Did they divorce and then get back together?
Yeah.
Okay.
But he's in his 80s. He looks great.
Yeah.
She looks great too. That was a good choice. I'm going to go with my next one is when I saw this movie in the Stanley Theater with all the sound and everything, my mom's boyfriend at the time, Denis, took me to the movie, and it was an R-rated film, and I had to go with an adult. My mom didn't want to see it. She was working. So he took me, and he goes, I'm not really a fan of science fiction genre. I don't know what this is about. I said, look, just fasten your seatbelts, dude. We're going to and we were sitting in the front row, in the middle, and it's Alien.
Oh, there you
1979. Mm. Sigourney Weaver and Ridley Scott, who I love, one of my favorite directors. Mm. And
he just finished Gladiator, too.
I'm
psyched to see that.
And a little blurb on it. In deep space, the crew of the commercial starship Nostromo is awakened from their psychosleep capsules halfway through the journey to investigate a distress call from an alien vessel in the middle of nowhere. The terror begins when the crew encounters a nest of eggs.
They should have let it go into voicemail.
Inside the alien ship. They shouldn't have just kept on going.
Yeah, they should
kept on going.
But then there'd be no movie.
Right. And the organism from inside the eggs leaps out and attaches itself to the face of the crew.
I remember everyone in the audience screamed. My mom took me and our mutual friend Brian Alk to that movie in 1979.
Right.
We saw it in the theater. I watched most of that movie through my fingers.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Absolutely incredible. It's the best series except for number 3.
Yeah,
they're
they
all
kind
fantastic.
of went off the rails a little bit.
But
the scene that I remember the most, or it was one memorable scene after another. Tom Skerritt is hunting the alien with a flamethrower, and he's going through the tunnel, and he just shifts slightly, and there's the alien.
Yeah.
And you see the alien for the first time, and it's just it's just absolutely horrifying, terrifying.
Fantastic movie. That was mine. What do you got?
Okay. I'm going to go with a slightly more obscure choice. 2010 Space Battleship Yamato. I feel like this is one of the most underrated science fiction movies of all time, based
Can
on the
you say
classic
that name again?
Japanese anime from the 1970s, which you might remember, Pauly, as Star Blazers. Remember Star
Battleship?
Blazers?
Yes,
Which was the American version of
Yeah.
that show, where they rewrote the story slightly to make it more palatable for young kids. Basically, these aliens attack Earth, and there's this radiation that's killing everybody, and these good aliens send a message to our heroes. It's like, come to our planet, and we will give you the stuff that you guys need to fix the radiation that's killing everybody. So it's basically kind of like Battlestar Galactica. We're on this ship, the Yamato, and it's got this most amazing weapon ever in the history of science fiction, the wave motion gun. It's only good for one shot every so often, but it basically is able to destroy an entire
that's
fleet.
going to help you out in space.
So this
One
movie,
shot.
This movie, what they did was they took the whole series and condensed it into a 2-hour movie. But that aside, it is on YouTube, and it is to me, it's every bit as exciting as the original Star Wars.
Wow, that was out of left field.
Yeah.
Good for you. I once in a while Johnny surprises
It's from
me.
Japan.
Obviously. And so my next one is Back to America with one of my favorite directors, Ridley Scott. And I'm going to go with Blade Runner, 1982. And I brought it up in one of our previous episodes, one of my favorite films of all time. But the original extended version, this one, that Ridley added another 58 minutes or something, is mind-blowing. It's so good. Have you seen it?
Yeah, Rutger Hauer has one of the best monologues
Incredible.
at the end of that movie.
Incredible. But Daryl Hannah,
Yeah.
the cutest robot.
Sean Young.
Yeah.
Great
Sean
cast.
Young, of course, she disappeared very quickly.
Right.
But just an unbelievable film.
Yeah.
And my top 20 of all time. Doesn't matter genre.
Another visually groundbreaking film.
Just incredible. If you haven't seen the extended, go see it.
Okay.
It's incredible. Anyways, what do you got next?
My next choice is 1996's Independence Day. Now, I only ask one thing from a movie, that it delivers on what it promises, whatever the genre is. And I went to this movie...
What did they promise?
Expecting to see, aliens attacking Earth and Earth fighting back. And this movie delivers all of that in spades. Directed by Roland Emmerich, who is sort of the modern-day Irwin Allen. He just keeps making one disaster movie after another.
Yeah, good call.
But to me, Independence Day is one of the most insanely entertaining movies ever made. Bill Pullman, Brent Spiner as the wacky, eccentric scientist, Randy Quaid as the Vietnam-era pilot.
Before he went nuts.
And I love that he, even after the invasion, when he tells people that he was abducted by aliens, nobody believes him. And it's a very funny movie.
And Randy Quaid, by the way, was actually abducted by real aliens.
Of course, so he claims.
Well, that's what he says.
And the scene where the newscasters, they have the image of the slash over the hand with the gun. Like, please don't fire handguns at the aliens. Like Dean Devlin, who tore the screen. It's probably the funniest movie ever made about the end of the world, but not satirical. And I also feel that it's very uplifting. And Jeff Goldblum and Will Smith are just, their chemistry is off the charts.
Jeff Goldblum's pretty talented, dude.
And the scene where they're walking away from the crashed ship is like taken from the right stuff.
Good movie.
Another Philip Kaufman movie.
Good movie. I was going to put it in, but I knew Johnny would pick it.
Now, I did not think that you would like Independence Day.
Yeah.
It's kind of rah-rah.
Yeah, it's not my...
But I like those kind of movies.
Yeah, it's big budget Hollywood film. It's a lot of fluff, a lot of action, a lot of CGI. It's whatever. I got something better.
Okay, here we go. Better than Independence Day?
Oh,
Not
my
possible.
God. This is one of my favorite... Okay, so let me... Instead of giving you the name and the title, let me just read this to you. You'll probably get it. In a remote Antarctica, a group of American research scientists are disturbed at their base camp by a helicopter shooting at a sled dog in the middle of nowhere.
Of all things.
And when they take in the dog, it brutally attacks both human beings and the canines in camp. And they discover the beast can assume the shape of its victims.
I saw this movie very recently.
A resourceful
For the first time.
helicopter pilot, Kurt Russell, is probably going to give the film away, and camp doctor, Richard Dysart, who ends up dying a hellish death. It's great. Lead the camp crew in a desperate, gory battle against a vicious creature that picks them off one by one. 1982, The Thing.
A classic. John Carpenter.
Love it.
Yeah.
Another John Carpenter,
In his prime. His
Remember
real
They?
heyday.
John Carpenter, They? It was kind of zombie as well.
Yeah.
Anyways, it really, like this movie, from the beginning to the end, you'd never know it was filmed in 1982.
Yeah.
It just...
And all the effects were practical. And still very effective.
Well, they're very
to this
graphic.
day.
The alien was incredible.
Yeah.
And it was violent, and it was great. Oh, I love it. One of my favorite films.
Okay. My next choice is Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country, also written and directed by Nicholas Meyer. Christopher Plummer as General Chang, a Canadian, one of the great villains of all time. Have you seen that movie? He's got the eye patch.
Yeah.
That's like actually bolted into his
I've
head.
met Christopher Plummer a couple of times. A very nice,
Oh, wow.
eloquent gentleman.
I can imagine. A
Larger than
Shakespearean
life.
actor. And he was great friends with Patrick Stewart.
Yeah.
And that movie was very timely. It was all about glasnost and the fall of the Soviet Union, or in the case of Star Trek, the fall of the Klingon Empire. And you have one side saying, well, no, we have to have peace with the Federation. And you have another saying, no, we've got to invade the Federation and take everything that they've got. And I love how Captain Kirk in that movie has to deal with his anti-Klingon prejudice, because essentially, I mean, he's one of my all-time favorite good guys, but he's a human being. He hates Klingons, and for good reason. You know, some bad Klingons killed his son.
Can I just... Don't we all hate Klingons?
Well, they're make-believe, so it's okay.
No,
It's
but I
okay
mean,
to hate-
Klingons can mean a lot of different things, but we won't go there.
Well, no, we want to keep it family-friendly. It's okay to hate a make-believe a character. Leonard Nimoy.
But if you had Klingons, get rid of them.
Nicholas Meyer came up with the story, which was very timely because it was 1986 and the Berlin Wall had come down, and it was Gorbachev and Glasnost and the beginning of more, at least at that time anyway, a more peaceful coexistence with Russia and the Soviet Union. So that's my choice, Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country. John Leister, The Cure for Insomnia, apparently.
Yeah. Anytime he brings up Star Trek, I'm like,
Well, you knew one of my choices was going to be related to Star Trek. How could it not be?
every single thing we do video, it's Star Trek. And listen, it's great. I get it. The old school, the new school, I get it. My next one is, I'm taking it to higher levels.
There you go.
I'm going with the original Matrix in 1999. And Neo believes that Morpheus, Lawrence Fishburne, an elusive figure considered to be the most dangerous man alive, can answer his question. What is the Matrix? Well, it's kind of like what we're living in right now.
That movie was really under the radar when it came out.
Incredible.
Because it was all about Phantom Menace,
Incredible.
right? Because it came out the same year.
Incredible.
Matrix was...
Neo is contracted by Trinity, Canadian Carrie-Anne Moss, a beautiful stranger that leads him into underworld where he meets Morpheus, and they fight the brutal battle. You guys have all seen this. I haven't actually seen Matrix 4. Have you?
I saw it in Australia, and I really enjoyed it.
Was it good?
I liked it better than the last two.
Well-
I liked how they tried to bring it back to the basics. Like, it's not so much spectacle, but I just love seeing Keanu Reeves and Carrie-Anne Moss together
nice-
again.
nice
They're
chemistry.
Such a appealing couple, and it's a great love story.
Yeah, and they're both Canadian.
Yeah. I enjoyed Matrix Revolutions, I think was
Yeah,
what it was.
that was the fourth one.
Resurrections.
Resurrections.
was the second one.
And the sisters that did the movies together,
Wachowskis.
they broke up, and one of them did the fourth one, and the
Yeah.
other one was not a part of it. So there was obviously something going on there. But
I could see why it wasn't well received because there wasn't anything in it that we hadn't seen before. But I just got a kick out of seeing those characters again after so many years.
Lana Wachowski and Lily Wachowski, and they won the Empire Award for Best Film, and it's just a great film. What do you got?
My next choice is a classic from the 1970s that you might be familiar with, Colossus, The Forbin Project, with Eric Braeden, who plays a scientist who builds this computer. Again, it's the beginning of AI, and it basically takes over the world. And what happens is when they switch on Colossus, which is the ultimate computer that's supposed to control everything, and for some reason everybody thinks that's a good idea in this movie, the Russians also have their own computer.
It didn't work with HAL. It's not going to work with Colossus.
The Russians have their own supercomputer called Guardian. And so both computers are switched on at the same time. And so, of course, they join forces and take over the world. And what happens is the military leaders, a little bit semi-spoiler warning, the military leaders actually begin to obey the supercomputer. So this movie, I feel, is very prophetic, and I watched it a couple years ago. And you can watch it on YouTube, and it's absolutely chilling. It's like a Twilight. It's like a long Twilight. And you know Eric Braeden? He was in Rat Patrol. He played General Rommel. He was a very prolific actor from that era. Have you seen that movie, Colossus?
No.
Oh, okay. I watched it every time it was on TV when I was a kid.
But it reminds me, when you talk about the supercomputers and everything, it's apparently one of the dictator countries, these, I don't know, I don't want to say the name, but they have a supercomputer called Pineapple.
No.
And apparently it doesn't work.
Good. That's probably a good thing.
Yeah. So
Yet.
I'm just I don't know. I'm trying
I'm surprised you haven't, because it was on TV all the time when we were kids.
I might have. It just the name is terrible. First and foremost, it's not
Yeah, they
going
should
to
have just
capture
called it
anyone's.
Colossus.
Yeah.
They overcomplicated
It actually is Colossus on the movie when they put it out because the name was a problem. So I looked at that today on my thing and I saw Colossus, but it wasn't the name that you just said. It just said Colossus.
Yeah, they should have just stuck
So
with
I
that.
think they just, I don't know. I think that's what they did.
Okay.
But anyways, I'm going to go back to one of my favorite directors. It's a French director by the name of Luc Besson. And I just watched Leon the other night. Incredible movie.
Jean Reno.
Yeah, with Jean Reno and Natalie Portman
Portman.
when she was 11, and Gary Oldman, who was just,
He's a very bad guy, as I recall. in that
well,
movie.
he's just a junkie. He's just a psychotic junkie, bad cop.
Great
But
actor.
Great actor, great movie, so well done. But this one is called The Fifth Element,
Okay.
1997 by Luc Besson. The Earth is about to be, it's always about to be destroyed by a huge ball of fire. I could have come up with something better, Luke. Come on, buddy. Racing towards the planet. Cornelius, the name of my grandfather, an old monk, knows how to stop the burning sphere with the help of Corbin Dallas, Bruce Willis.
Great name.
Or what used to be, yeah, great name. As a writer, you love those names. A taxi driver and former secret agent, and a woman named Lilo, which is one of my favorite female actresses, who I was going to bring up in the zombie
Resident
genre.
Evil. Yeah.
Yeah.
First one.
Yeah, he won the Caesar Award for Best Director, and it's got a lot of really good actors. It's a great, like for 1997, it really captured the 23rd century, and it was entertaining. It was fun.
Yeah, it's
whimsical.
really eye-popping.
Yeah,
A little, I don't want to be negative, but a little too much.
Johnny's not normally
a little
negative.
too much Chris Tucker for me in that movie. A little, his voice was a little on the grating side.
I think too much makeup, and Chris Chris was maybe he's like
Maybe.
in between takes and just let him go.
Sometimes more is less.
Yeah, and I agree with you on that. By the way, he was a little bit over the top.
Yeah.
But
A great spectacle. To be
Yeah.
sure. I barely remember it, but I just remember being dazzled by the visuals.
Absolutely, and speaking by dazzled by the visuals or having expectations of the first film, and then there's no way somebody can come and make the second film as good or if not better. I'm going with Aliens, plural, 1986.
That's
the
on my
second.
list.
The second.
Yeah.
I had to get it in there before because I knew it was going to be on there. Because we both like Sigourney Weaver and we love the Aliens genre. I think it's
James
one of the...
Cameron.
And just a little thing here because a lot of people have seen it, a lot of people haven't. But after floating in space for 57 years, which might not seem long in space, but if you're floating in a sleep, it could be 557 years. You don't know. Lieutenant Ripley, Sigourney Weaver, shuttle is found in deep space by a salvage team. Upon arriving at LV 426, which is the name of the planet because they're in the middle of nowhere, the Marines find only one survivor, a 9-year-old girl named
Newt, who went on to become a school teacher.
Yeah.
That was her one and only movie.
I know,
Yeah.
it's incredible.
I know, it's
eh?
an amazing story.
Yeah, Carrie Henn, she was fantastic in
was.
it.
Very plucky gal.
But even these battle-hardened Marines with the latest weaponry are no match for the hundreds, millions, thousands of aliens that have invaded the colony, of which they just found out. James Cameron took over the reins from Ridley Scott and
Did a yeoman job. And actually, the extended version is even
Phenomenal.
better. That's one of the few extended cuts because they introduced Ripley's daughter.
Yeah.
They established that while Ripley was floating around in space for
well, they
57
wanted to
years.
do that because they
Yeah.
wanted to do Resurrection next,
Yeah.
right? Or after the third one,
Yeah.
the fourth. But just that's I don't need to say anymore. It just
Aliens really holds up. It's
Alien's the best.
Yeah.
It was the first one, but Aliens when they came in
yeah.
surpassed it.
And Bill
It
Paxton was so hilarious as Hudson.
Rest in peace, Bill.
Every Marine in that movie has such a well-defined personality, and you really get a sense, like almost wish-
Michael Biehn once again.
I almost like to see like a prequel just with those characters, like the colonial Marines, because you really get a sense when you meet them that they've been in battle before. Like there's like a history and there's like a backstory. Like you want to know more about these characters.
Yeah.
And I love the commanding officer. Remember, he'd never been in an actual op before.
Yeah.
It was like his first mission. And he's obviously over his head.
Billy Kudik.
And Ripley winds up taking control of the car. Yeah, Aliens is probably one of the greatest sequels ever made. It's at least
Star Wars.
And I like how it didn't try to copy the first one.
Yeah.
Right, it was
like I
its own
say,
thing.
it was much better. And so, is it my turn or your turn?
No, go ahead. Let me look at my list here. Okay, I'm going to go with Moonraker, 1979.
Oh.
Probably not the most popular of the James Bond series. Obviously, the producers of that film looked at Star Wars.
Roger Moore?
Roger Moore. Yeah. They looked at Star Wars, the most popular movie of the time, and said, well, let's put James Bond in space, which obviously a lot of diehard fans would not like. But I watched Moonraker a couple of years ago, and it's such a goofy, silly, but insanely entertaining movie. And the battle at the end, where you see that the soldiers, they have these backpacks that fire laser beams.
Yeah.
You have the American soldiers versus Drax the villain, and they have the space battle, which is something that they haven't done since. I've never seen that in another movie since then. To me, it really holds up.
Yeah. No, it's really good. Good scene.
I'm
good
surprised
action.
you like that movie because it is some of the humor is.
I like a lot of movies just because I don't agree with some of your things doesn't mean I didn't like some of the things in the movie, right? What I will say is my next movie is we both love, is Star Wars: A New Hope. This is number 4 in the episode. The first one
when we saw it was just Star Wars.
Number 1.
Right?
Yeah. 1979. Well, because they've done like 11, 12, whatever.
And on and on.
And so a quick thing, because 1979, Johnny and I was at Bayview in public school before joining Johnny at Kitsilano High, right about that time. And I went out and bought the Star Wars number 1 to 15, of which I mentioned with Keith Bickford and Johnny in our comic book.
Previous podcast.
And to try to find out, and it's not worth as much as I thought it would be, which is really kind of tragic. But the Imperial forces under orders from cruel Darth Vader, David Prowse, very good, hold Princess Leia, Carrie Fisher, hostage in their efforts to quell the rebellion against the Galactic Empire. Luke Skywalker, Mark Hamill, and Han Solo, Harrison Ford, captain of the Millennium Falcon, a piece of shit, but it works, work together in the companionable droid duel R2-D2 and CP3PO to rescue the beautiful partying
It's a very classic story, but done in a new way.
Help the Rebel Alliance restore freedom and justice to the galaxy. Damn it!
Right. This movie, the way this movie opens, it really plunges you right into the story.
Fantastic.
It's almost like it is. It did turn out to be part 4, and George Lucas intended to be the way.
Yeah.
I feel like out of all the Star Wars movies, which I've seen many times, this one, and I think we talked about it on another podcast, but it's still the purest. It's its own movie. It has a beginning, middle, and end, and nobody's related.
Yeah. No, it's really incredible. It's one of my favorite films of all time.
And I just remember when I saw that movie, I saw it with our mutual friend Jasvir Sidhu. Just people were laughing and cheering and clapping. Harrison Ford, he's talking to, like, oh, everything's fine here. Everything, it's a reactor leak. Oh, we're nailing it down. And finally he shoots like boring conversation. And he's just such relatable. And I think Harrison Ford actually ad-libbed a lot of that stuff.
Well, the director allowed them because they had a script, but it was kind of crappy and it was low budget. But you'd never know for 1979.
Like, you could put Luke, Han, and Leia in any movie, and you would recognize those characters. And I just love the chemistry and the bickering and the sexual tension, the romantic tension.
I was going to say the first 2 things were kind of reminds me of us, but as soon as you said the last 2 things, I was like, no.
Moving forward.
Okay. No, that's not us. All right? We have distance between us today.
Well, there maybe need to be some more.
Well, good luck with this room. So the next one I'm going with,
we can knock a wall down.
I'm going with back to 1977, and Steven Spielberg, Close Encounters of the Third Kind. I saw this in the Stanley Theater once again, and what a fantastic children's science fiction fable. I absolutely loved it. It is. I don't need to say any more. It was the number 1 film. I think 400 million.
UFOs were a big deal in the 1970s. We always heard stories about people being abducted by aliens, and so it was a hot topic. And the little boy opening the door and like the light
Yeah, of
and
course.
the seeing the mothership at the end. Yeah, it's a very, it's like 2001.
It's an iconic film. It stands the test of time. It's children, but it's adults. It's just a warm film. It's done really well. Yeah, not a big fan, and it won tons of awards. But that would be that one. What about you next?
Okay, I'm going to go with another obscure title. This one is from Hong Kong, a slightly sillier movie. Slightly. Have you ever heard of a movie called Inframan?
I've heard of it.
It was made in 1979, and it's basically an in-your-face, balls-to-the-wall, unapologetic superhero extravaganza with tons of kung fu fights and giant monsters, and just the world is at peril from beginning to end. And Roger Ebert's review of Inframan, if you ever read it online, it will make you want to see this movie. It has kind of a Power Rangers vibe, but it was made in the 1970s, and I saw this movie as a boy. My dad took me to it, and I just lost my mind. I still think it's like the best superhero movie because it's just so apocalyptic from beginning to end. Wow. There's like a scene of like arms, like these disembodied arms attacking the science headquarters, and the villain's name is Dragon Mom.
Oh my God! I can't believe you brought this up. Talk about esoteric.
Esoteric.
I actually saw this film for about 15 minutes.
That's all it could take.
No, because the Cornet Theater, it was a triple. If you watched it, the movie past a certain, they wouldn't give you a refund.
Yeah, I remember that.
And so I went in, watched this movie for a couple of minutes, and said, "This is a pile of garbage." It was so bad. It wasn't even a B grade. It was a C grade. And it was terrible, but I was gone. I just wanted my money back because I actually... There was another movie because you had a choice of, there was two different, the Cornet was 3 theaters. They had one big one downstairs and 2 smaller ones upstairs. So the one that I saw, I just got my money back and went to check out the other one that started. And it was so much better. I think it was a kung fu thing or something. But that's really cool. It brought back memories. It was terrible. But
my next choice is a little bit more mainstream.
Is it my choice now?
Go for it.
So I'm going back to, science fiction. It's loose science fiction, but it is science fiction because of the date this movie. So what I will do, because Johnny will, as soon as I read this, is great.
Sorry to spit on you again?
I think I spit on myself.
Oh, good.
In England of the future, that's it. Alex and his drogs spent their nights getting high in Corvala Milk Bar before embarking on a little of the old ultraviolence. While jauntily singing in the rain.
A gang of hooligans.
As they were going to go out to rape and pillage. After he's jailed for bludgeoning the cat lady to death, not family, Alex submits to behavioral modification technique to earn his freedom. He's conditioned to abhor violence, return to the world defensivelessness, and Alex then becomes a victim of his prior victims. Clockwork Orange, 1971.
You know what? I always wondered about the title. Did you ever investigate the origin of what exactly a Clockwork Orange means? Is it like a literary reference?
Yes.
So in the story, Alex, what happens, I haven't seen this movie many, it's a classic, but he actually gets physically sick. Like he pukes anytime he feels an urge to hurt somebody.
But he can't stop himself because they're all high and wrecked. This is a groundbreaking film.
Another Stanley Kubrick.
Another Kubrick film who, I always end up getting back to directors. If you're a good director, you're going to make some great films. This was dark, and when I saw it, I was very young. I saw it much later, and it was restricted in the theater.
Really not a kid's film.
And it was so well done, and I really appreciated Malcolm McDowell's acting.
Yeah.
He's so good, and Kubrick had some great stuff. He's had some crap, but he's had mostly good stuff.
In another movie, you couldn't wait for the hero to kill this guy, but in this movie, you almost sort of kind of felt bad for him because he winds up becoming a victim of everybody else around him because he can't defend himself.
It's funny. Clockwork Orange in 1971 reminds me of what the UK is now. If you went to the UK and you went on a night out, it's an absolute gong show.
Is that right?
Oh, it's so...
Really?
Well, I haven't been there in 25 years, but...
Very high crime?
Brutal.
Wow, how come?
Immigration.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, everyone wants to get on the dole. Everyone wants a free ride.
Okay.
And people are taking over towns, and it's just an absolute
sounds
travesty.
Awful.
Are you up next?
Okay, I'm going to go with, off the top of my head, since we've been talking about James Cameron, I'm going to go with Terminator 2 Judgment Day. Now, the Terminator, which we talked about on a previous podcast, a classic time travel, a science fiction epic. In Terminator 2, Robert Patrick plays the T-1000, and he's an android.
He's great.
And it was very groundbreaking special effects where his body is essentially liquid metal. So
it looks like Mercury.
Exactly, Mercury. That's right. Exactly right, Pauly. And so he's able to change his hands become like long
elongated.
And the scene where John Connor, played by Ed Furlong, is on the motorcycle and he's going down the ravine and he's being chased by the T-1000 in the truck. One of the greatest chase sequences ever. And then the Terminator, the good Terminator, Arnold Schwarzenegger, shows up and just pulls him off the bike and throws him on the back, just like he weighs like 10 pounds. And the music by Brad Fiedel and Linda Hamilton is so great.
She is. And I'm glad they brought her back for later ones. I was going to choose this, but I knew Johnny was going to take it.
Oh, okay, there you go.
But even though he did it off the cuff, it's one I let him do. Fantastic.
It is.
Really, really good. My next one's going back into the 70s again. And I did mention this, I think, in one of our previous episodes. I absolutely fell in love with this. But I want to read you the thing because it's from IMDb.
The synopsis.
I love the synopsis they give here. In the year 2274, young residences enjoyed an idyllic, hedonistic lifestyle within the protective confines of a domed city. The general belief is that when each person turns 30, they are reincarnated for another blissful, hedonistic lifestyle. For those who know the much darker truth become runners.
Right, they try to get away.
And flee the hidden sanctuary. When law enforcement officer Logan, Michael York, goes undercover to locate the people that have bolted.
They're looking for sanctuary.
He winds up instead trying to initiate a revolution with runner Jessica, the very beautiful British actress, Jenny Agutter. Logan's Run, 1976. My God, is that a good film?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Love it. Everything about it.
Yeah.
I've seen the movie 40 times.
And then towards the end of the movie, they encounter Peter Ustinov, who's this really old man. Now, this is like a culture where everybody is super young, like in their 20s. They've never
33. You put in the dome when you turn 33.
Right.
Or 31.
They've never seen an old person before. And they want to touch his face because they've never seen a wrinkled
By the way, that was his last film.
Yeah. And it's a very, Logan's Run holds up really well.
Oh.
And there was a TV series too that kind of sucked, but the original
was
I'm surprised they haven't remade it.
I've got two more. How many you got?
I'm done, I think.
I'm going to bang these off really quick because we're already at that time. I'm going to go back to 1973, and I want to read you the synopsis because I really enjoy this. This movie is a futuristic theme park where paying guests can pretend to be gunslingers in the artificial Wild West populated by androids. After paying a sizable entrance fee, Blaine, James Brolin, the father of Josh Brolin, and Martin, Richard Benjamin, you remember him?
Classic 70s actor.
Absolutely, and very good. Determined to unwind while hitting the saloons and having some cocktails and shooting their guns and playing with a couple of the robot gals, perhaps.
It's like Fantasy Island,
futuristic. When the system goes haywire and Blaine is killed in a duel with a robotic gunslinger, the great Yul Brynner, who passed very shortly after from lung cancer.
Don't smoke. Whatever you do, don't smoke.
He smoked 4 packs a day. And he even said on his deathbed.
Dressed like his character from the
He said on his
Magnificent
deathbed, he goes, if there's anything you could do it, he goes, I would have never smoked.
Yeah, it was a very famous commercial in the 1970s, as I recall.
I remember that.
Yeah.
Martin's escapist fantasy suddenly becomes a grim reality. Just incredible. It blew everyone away. In 1973, And Johnny and I both are huge Western
I have not seen that
fans.
movie, believe it or not. I saw Future World, the sequel, but I
Yes.
did not see Westworld.
I saw that as well.
Michael
that wasn't
Crichton
bad.
was the writer, as I recall.
I've read a lot of his stuff, actually.
Same here. He's one of my... I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I can't believe I didn't add him to my favorite writer list.
And I'm just going to finish this off, Johnny, if I will, because we're at 44 minutes.
40 minutes?
I wanted to
Marathon.
throw this in because it was so good. I wanted to throw in the adventure continues in this sequel as Luke Skywalker, Han Solo, Princess Leia, Chewbacca face attack from the Imperial forces. I could go on. It is so The Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah.
I didn't want to leave the theater. It was so good. I just wanted to sit in the theater and watch it again.
Yeah, that's the only movie I ever skipped out of high school.
Oh.
Because it played... And Brian Alk actually skipped out that day.
Oh, really?
It was on a Wednesday. We actually went on a Wednesday to the Stanley Theater
That
to
is
watch
incredible.
Empire Strikes Back. Did
Really?
not regret it. I don't think we missed anything important.
Such a bigger scope, bigger budget, and so much better than any of the others
Yeah.
because it was just more advanced and the CGI and technology and everything. But wow, that was a fantastic 45
You really
minutes.
had a feeling that the good guys could lose in this one.
You know what? And the good guys can lose.
Yeah.
But right now, what's happening in the States in the American situation with
Oh, God. Here we go.
with Kamala and her future prince Pete Buttigieg.
Segue to politics.
It's not going to be Buttigieg. It's going to be Shapiro. But whatever. I don't like to talk about politics too much
Yes, he
because
absolutely
Johnny.
does.
No, I don't actually. I only mention it briefly just to piss Johnny off a little bit.
Fine.
At the end of the day, this was an awesome segment. Episode 8, 9, we've lost track, but they'll all be up sooner than later. We've got an episode coming. We just put part 1 and part 2 of episode 7. Episode 8 is coming. This will be 9 and 10. We actually have one in the can at 11. I don't think I'm going to put on. We might do it later. But look, in the meantime, thank you very much again for
We're
joining.
just getting warmed up.
We are. Our goal is to get to 100 episodes. So if you can stay with us and hang out and
Infinity
enjoy
and beyond.
and comment, like, subscribe.
We want your
feedback. We
absolutely.
really appreciate it.
100%. Thank you.
We've just started this. We're in the very beginning stages, but we're really happy about it. It's Johnny and I really enjoy it. In case you haven't noticed,
And if you don't have your own podcast, why don't you? You should. This is really fun.
do it now.
Take
Don't
advantage
stop.
of this technology.
do it.
You get to share your mind, your soul, and your heart with the whole world, and you meet like-minded people.
Absolutely. And
You might meet the person you spend the rest of your life with.
Well, in terms of friendship, we've been friends 52 years, so that's out of my 59. That's
Here's to the next 52.
yeah. Well, that would be kind of cool. I don't think that's going to
We
happen,
can upload our brains onto the internet and
but
live
well,
forever.
who knows? I mean, speaking of science fiction, there we go.
There's the
It's,
story. Get ready.
It is. But I'm Paul Bale.
I'm John Leister,
We are the Canadian Bro Show.
Living Legends. Oh,
All things Canadian. And by the way, we have 2 things before we finish off really quickly. Johnny wants to do a pun
here we go.
because we missed out on a pun.
Sorry
As you'll
about that.
notice in the last episode at
It's
the
kind
end,
of a cliffhanger.
John always goes, give me a pun, let me do a
be
pun,
continued.
pun.
Dot,
And I'm
dot,
like,
dot.
click, no. So anyways, Johnny.
Okay, here we go. I was in New York recently, which is a lie, and caught a Broadway show. Puns. It's a play on words.
Oh my God. Okay, and your book?
And suddenly all the air just went out of the room. Okay, well, I just got this book today at the library. I am a huge fan
Sorry,
of
that was
Winston
my
Churchill.
That was my breath.
And this was written by Mr. Churchill himself. And obviously, it's about his adventures as a young soldier. And I just read a couple of pages while I was waiting for Pauly today. And I know that this is a book that I'm really going to enjoy. Great writer,
Yeah.
great speaker,
Great
and
man.
a great leader.
Great man.
And I
Great
think that if
leader.
we're not for him, I think that the world would be a very different place today. I think it
Yeah.
would be a darker place, but that's just
Yeah.
my opinion.
Well, I agree with
That's
you.
as political as I get.
And Winston Churchill is the man. For me, I'm going to go a little bit more positive. I've had this book on and off for the years. I've read it a number of times. It's called we've got this back on the reverse camera, but it's the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, Powerful Lessons in Personal Change by Stephen R. Covey. Who doesn't need work on the mind, the body, the soul, the spirit?
We're all works in progress, lifelong students.
Education is everything. And even though I've read this a couple of times, sometimes a reminder is a good thing. And I like to do it after I do my meditation and a little yoga in the morning, and I will have my coffee and power shake. Then I'll go to my patio and read a chapter and get into my vibe before I hit my bike ride for the day, and then try to get the day on. Try to be systematic in my approach. But thanks again.
He's very systematic, this man.
My middle name is Richard Michael, but my mom should have chosen systematic.
Get a new birth certificate.
No, everybody in our family changes their names but me. And I don't even like my name. I've got 4 names, Paul, Richard, Michael, Bale. I don't like any of them. But that was what's given to me. So John's was given his first name, and he hates it. So we don't even talk it.
I was actually Theodore, but all the kids call me Teddy, and I was fat, and they called me Teddy Bear.
And blonde.
I'm still recovering from that trauma
fat,
to this
blonde,
day.
And he had a bounce in his step that made him look like he was a little bit...
I was in my own world, and very much so to this day. Yeah, everyone made fun of my walk. That really hurt my feelings.
Yeah, I know it did, and that's why... First thing he told me when I met him, he goes, Paul, please don't call me Teddy. I was like, Teddy, don't worry, I won't. Oh, God, I already did that. Anyways,
like,
we got to go.
I won't call you Teddy, I promise.
We got to go. We don't want to take up
Teddy.
any more time. 50 minutes. What the heck?
It's the extended edition of the Canadian Bro Show.
Verbiage. Canadian Bro Show.
Thanks for watching.
Watch again. Like, subscribe, comment. Thank you for watching.
And don't forget, God loves you. And if you don't believe in God, believe in yourself.
We believe in God, and we believe in each other.
And we believe in ourselves. What's the alternative?
Peace, love, and happiness is the alternative.
Thanks for watching.
Happy BC Day.
Cheers.
Take care.